Another 5-minute mystery.
This is your announcer, James Van Dorn, saying goodnight to you all.
Gentlemen, please. Quiet. That's better. Now, Mr. Horton, you're the director of this show. Would you tell me in your own words exactly what happened when Van Dorn died?
Well, Inspector, it was toward the end of the program. Van Dorn reached for the button to put the studio off the air, and then he just gasped and fell to the floor.
I see. Where were the rest of you when this happened?
Well, Taylor and I were in the control room, and Johnny Raymond was at the organ.
Are you Taylor?
That's right. I'm the studio engineer.
Did you notice anything peculiar during the program?
No, sir. I was in the control room most of the time.
Most of the time.
Well, except for the few minutes when I went into the studio to check the equipment just before going on the air.
You noticed nothing out of the ordinary?
No, sir.
How about you, Raymond?
Well, I was at the organ singing during the whole show.
You didn't see anything either.
No. Mr. Van Dorn just pushed a button and then collapsed.
Let's take a look at this button. Which one was it, Mr. Raymond?
Well, I wouldn't know. Kind of new around here.
It's this black one here, Inspector. It puts the studio off the air when you... Oh!
Yeah, what happened, Mr. Horton?
Well, I don't know. Something pierced my finger.
Pierced your finger? Yeah, let me see.
Oh,
Well, what do you know about this?
What is that?
Hey, look here. A little pin sticking out of this button.
A little pin?
Yes, and that's not all. You see this stain on the lower half of this pin? If my guess is right, this pin's been dipped in poison.
But what does it mean?
It means that Van Dorn didn't just die, but was murdered.
Murdered?
But how?
Simple. When Van Dorn went to switch the studio off the air, he stuck his finger on the pin and died immediately.
Incredible.
But that means anyone could have slipped in here and put that pin there.
Hey, you're wrong there, Mr. Horton. It means that one of you three put that pin there.
One of us?
Yes, Horton.
Who?
You, Mr. Taylor. You're under arrest for the murder of James Van Dorn.
How did the inspector know it was Taylor who murdered Van Dorn? We'll give you the solution in just a moment. But first... And now for the solution.
I murdered Van Dorn. Why, you're crazy.
Am I? You said you went out to check all the equipment. If someone else had put the pin on that button, you would have noticed it.
Well, one of the others could...
No, Taylor. It couldn't have been Raymond or Horton. Raymond's new in the radio business and knew nothing about the board or anything else about this studio. Remember, this was his first radio show. If it had been Horton, he wouldn't have accidentally stuck his finger on it just now. No, Taylor. You were the only possible one. Now, you better get ready to march. We're going to headquarters.
Another 5-minute mystery.
Come on, Mary, let's take a turn on the Ferris wheel. We haven't done that in years.
Henry, I think I'm too winded to go another step. You go on alone and I'll wait here.
Nothing doing.
Oh, Sheriff! Sheriff, please!
Hey, somebody calling me?
That man there, Henry. Come in this way.
Oh, Sheriff! Oh, gee, I'm mighty glad I found you, sir.
Hey, what's the matter, Rube? Something wrong?
Johnny Clare, the star aerialist over in the Big Top. She was just found murdered in her tent.
Now, let's get this straight. Cause of death, strangulation. Grease paint smears on her throat and several small, fresh scratches on the palms of her hands. Costume also grease smeared.
Well, what do you say, Sheriff? We can't keep the crowd waiting in the Big Top all day.
As company manager, what do you think? This kind of upset your show, doesn't it?
Why don't you talk to the voodoo doctor? He was the last one with her.
Might be a good idea. Which one's he?
Well, he's right over there, Sheriff, the one in all the paint.
Ah, so you're the voodoo doctor.
Yes, sir, I am.
What's your name? What do I call you besides voodoo doctor?
Just call me Neil.
Urban here tells me that you might be able to throw some light on the murder of Miss Clare.
Urban, eh? I thought so. Why, you...
No rough stuff there. Now talk, Neil. Don't feel like it. Well, Urban, suppose you tell me what you know.
Well, Sheriff, just before the show started, I saw the voodoo doctor sneak away from Dottie's tent.
Dressed just as he is in costume.
Yeah, grease from head to foot. I waited until he passed and then looked into Dottie's tent. She was dead.
And you think that Neil, the voodoo doctor...
Killed Dottie? I'm sure of it. I heard him threaten her.
That's a lie. Dottie asked me to come to her tent, but she was dead when I got there.
Did you touch anything?
Not a thing. I'm not so crazy as to leave fingerprints on somebody else's dirty work.
Does everyone in the show use the same grease paint that you have on, Neil?
No, I'm the only one. As a voodoo, I have to paint up like this.
Well, if you and Urban were the only humans to be near the body before she was murdered...
And he's your man,
I
Sheriff.
don't think so, Urban. I think you're in for a little surprise. You see, I'm holding you for the murder of Dottie Clare.
Why did the sheriff arrest Urban, the show's manager, for the murder of his aerialist? In a moment, we'll hear, but first... And now, back to our story.
You're crazy, Sheriff. You ain't got one piece of evidence against me.
Haven't I, though? Listen, you claim it was Neil that came out of the tent after Dottie Clare was murdered. Neil's torso and his face and hands are covered with grease paint.
It's all over the dead girl's costume, too, ain't it? What more could you want?
Just something you overlooked, Urban. Anyone struggling with him would have grease paint all over his own hands, too. But the only marks on Dottie's hands were scratches. This is proof enough that Dottie Clare did not struggle with your voodoo man, as you said. And consequently, he couldn't have strangled her. No, Urban. Looks like you slipped up that time. And that slip is going to cost you your life.
Another 5-minute mystery. At the toll gate to the great new cross-country speedway, a sporty red convertible pauses.
How much, Bud?
$1.50 to the next gate. Hey, what's the trouble with your friend there in the back seat, all bandaged up that way?
Accident.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, good luck. Say, take it easy, about 2 miles ahead. Repairs.
Okay, I'll watch it.
The convertible travels fast. 2 miles farther on, they round a slight curve. The temporary fences around the road repair work loom close ahead. There is a sudden shout from a man at the side of the highway.
Hey, look out!
Joe, did you see that? One of them guys fell out of the back seat. Let's get over there, quick.
So, Mr. Bryant, you say you weren't aware of the construction sign.
Not until I was right on top of him, Sheriff. Ask Al here. He was in the back seat with Johnny. Did we see him, Al?
Didn't the toll gate keeper warn you about that spot?
Well, the signs are moved for just a couple of minutes, Sheriff. Brad and I was out there to warn the cars to slow down.
Now, this guy came along so fast, though, we didn't get a chance.
You realize, of course, Mr. Bryant, that this is a very serious matter. The third person in your car, John Albertson, was killed instantly when he fell from the back seat. The toll gate keeper reports that he was already the victim of an accident, was bound up in bandages.
I know, Sheriff. I shouldn't have driven so fast. I don't know what to say.
Well, let's hear your story, Joe.
Yeah, it was this way, Sheriff. Brad and I was standing alongside the highway, like I said, and all of a sudden this red convertible comes racing along doing, at least 85 around the curve.
I see. Well, go on.
Well, the two guys in the back seat, this big man Al here and the other guy, they were sitting there with their heads down. When the brakes went on, they raised up. John, the bandaged one that fell out the back, he must have lost his grip, I guess. He just flew right out the back when the car stopped.
He flew out the back, eh?
Hey, Sheriff, can we go now? I'll come back later if you want, but I feel pretty bad about this. I think I could use some rest.
Rest? Sure, Mr. Bryant. You'll get plenty of rest. Right here in the county jail. I'm holding you for the murder of John Albertson.
What reason did the sheriff have for believing that John Albertson was murdered? In just a moment, we'll find out. But first... And now, back to our 5-minute mystery and the murder of John Albertson.
Murder? What are you talking about, Sheriff? There wasn't any murder.
It was murder, all right. And you and Al here collaborated on it. You see, Bryant, when a moving vehicle stops suddenly, the passengers in it are thrown forward, not backward. If Albertson lost his grip, he would have been thrown into the front seat, not back onto the highway. Your having him all bandaged up like that just made it easier for Al to throw him out. You see, Bryant, this time it was natural law that threw you into the hands of social law. Say, that's not a bad line.